Welcome to Microsoft Virtual Academy, Windows Security and Forensics class. I'm Erdal Ozkaya. I'm glad to be here with you again, and today I have the wolf with me, Hasain.
Thank you. My name is Hasain Alshakarti. I work for TrueSec, work as a cybersecurity advisor. Started as a developer back in time, and then moved from there into networking, identity management, Windows, Linux, Unix, you name it. Every single type of operating system I've been seeing and working with so far. As said, identity management and network security and forensic penetration testing is quite well what I work with today.
You are also on Microsoft?
Microsoft MVP, Enterprise Security, which is turning into cloud and data center management very soon. So it'll be interesting.
Cool. I'm still Erdal. You probably remember that's my third MBA. First one was Defense in Depth. Please go ahead and watch it. Second one was about enterprise security. And I'm completing my PhD, have 2 master's degrees, and I'm also an MVP like Hasain. Working, loving security, and today we are going to cover lots of cool and important stuff that you all have to listen carefully, because instead of talking too much, let's go straight into it. So what is in our course? We will cover 6 topics and 1 bonus topic, hopefully. So we will cover Windows security and forensics with the landscape of today, what's going on. Then we will cover the Windows memory attacks and forensics. Hasain, I know you prepared us really great demos. We will move from there to authentication attacks. Later, we're going to have also Raymond here, another MVP. With him, we're going to talk about Windows forensics. We will talk about network forensics and malware incident response. At the very end, hopefully, I'm going to be able to show you Windows 10 forensics, where it's going to cover the changes in Windows 10 and what you should know as forensic expert. This level, it's between 2 and actually 400, but we're going to stick to 200 and 300 level. Some of the stuff might get a bit advanced, but we prepared some slides for you where you can go and learn a lot. Okay, what are we covering in this module, Hasain?
Well, we're going to have a good look at how the landscape is changing in terms of what's happening out there. How are the bad guys acting? How are the good guys should be acting on those actions? A lot of things are changing. The hackers or attackers are using modern tools like PowerShell, and we still see very automated attacks going on there. So the effectivity level has been very much higher now than before. Of course, we will be touching on what's happening on the Windows ecosystem per se, what's happening with the Windows security ecosystem, what kind of functions do we see there and expect, how could we use the same kind of tools and methods the bad guys are using as an admin to recover from bad situations or breaches or anything that actually happens with us. So this is basically our main topic for some of the parts of the sessions for today. And we'll, at the end of this module, we'll give you a good demo about how we should consider or look at modern attacks and where they are hiding and what kind of tools we should use to be able to seek for them.
Cool. Then let's start with the security landscape. All right. We know there is lots of changes. So security is, I think the only change which doesn't change is the change word itself, right?
Yeah.
So we know people are really active in the internet, and I think you will remember this slide from my first MBA. So many things happen online in a minute. We all do many stuff on the internet, especially today, a good Microsoft approach, which is mobility first, cloud first, or cloud first, mobility first, is a fact that we're going to even be more involved with being online. All right, Hasain, we know cybercrime is not a hobby anymore.
Yeah.
It's actually a business. Yeah.
There are a lot of money involved in that. There are a lot of other type of interest involved in that as well. I mean, we see everything from people who are doing this for the money, and then we do have people doing this for attacking other maybe countries. We see the state financed activities appearing here and there from time to other. And we see a mixture of that as well. There are all kind of reasons behind why people are conducting cyber attacks nowadays. It could be political, it could be somebody is fighting for a specific reason and then they will target a specific site or a business or something like that. They are unhappy with a vendor or unhappy with some kind of political agenda, then they will be targeting those sites representing or those enterprises representing that agenda, for instance. So yes, we do have all kind of reasons why we do see cyber attacks going on today. It's not just the hobbyists, it's not just the normal hackers we used to know.
We have the nation states,
yeah.
We have the, we categorize them white, gray, blue hat is the Microsoft, I don't know how I can blue hat. Gray, white and black hat,
yeah.
But we know the cyber criminals, or today the governments also are hiring their own cyber army,
of course.
And it's public that many governments launch attacks, yeah. Even in corporations, and Sony was a good example on this. All right, so the landscape of today is a bit interesting. When we check the news, you will see that there are so many things happening. I don't have to really talk about each and every single attack. I remember many years ago, we used to have cybersecurity news very occasionally in the front page. But today, I don't see nearly a day, where there is no news, right?
That's
so
right.
People believe they have the best security solutions. They believe a product, a vendor, a solution will protect them.
That's
but
right.
Together today, we're going to show that security by itself is nothing. So it has to be chained to each other to be able to have the right and perfect solution.
Yeah, basically you have to know what kind of assets are you trying to protect. If you don't have that information, then whatever you put as a protection measures, that will be basically not worth the money you spend on it. So without making a correct assumption on what type of assets are most important in our enterprise or organization, we will be losing money and we're basically bleeding resources.
So it's not the product by itself, it's also the people, the value that we give as training. And this course, for example, is going to help, hopefully, organizations, governments to be more secure. All right. I think we all understand why we need Windows.
Yeah.
But why do we need Windows security?
Well, we obviously need to secure our systems against unauthorized access. We do have a lot of assets we need to protect in our environment. So that being said, we need to understand what kind of components and products and details in those components and products we can utilize to offer ourselves and our customers and our employees a decent level of security. Well, I'm saying a decent level of security simply because we cannot offer 100% coverage for everything that might happen. We don't even know about what is possible to happen. We can imagine some things because we've seen things going on. We know about some kind of attacks and so forth, but we don't have the big picture in front of us. Things are changing daily. Things are changing over time. We do push forth and back our business services on-premise to the cloud and so forth. And we need to deal with those new situations appearing along the path. So we need to figure out what the operating system, what the ecosystem we're using is able to offer us in terms of protection mechanism and protection components. And that's changing quite a lot nowadays. We've seen a new shifting in the area where Microsoft is really start focusing very much on security features in the platform. A lot of things are happening now with the release of Windows 10 and Windows Server 2016, for instance.
Okay, then I think it's really good to talk about the revolution of the cyber threats, right?
Yeah.
And I got a beautiful slide here, and I'm pretty sure you are the best person to explain that. Probably all of you don't know that. Hasain wrote, I remember during the war in Iraq, while you were escaping, he wrote his first program without even owning a computer. So it's a true story, which hopefully later he can tell us the details. But when we look in the security cyberspace, in 1977, when I was born, We had just viruses, and the first, I think it was Apple Mac virus, right? The Apollo virus.
Well, right before that, we had the first virus that spread very widely. It was here in the States in the university networks. It was an experiment if you could make a piece of software that could replicate itself to other computers, and was using some kind of glitch or problem in the send mail system. And that worked very well. So we remember that as the first self-spreading virus ever. And then from there we have the landscape you're laying out in that slide.
So it started to website attacks. I remember back then, again, IS4 was one of the most hacked websites, right? And it was really cool to hack websites. Then I remember early 2000, Melissa came out, the malicious code, which was replicating itself as well. Then it started to get new A variant, B variant, C variant, which was the advanced worm Trojan, which was called I Love You.
The I Love You, the NIMDA, the Code Red stuff.
You know, I was trying to just summarize.
All of that. I mean,
this was a good old days, I believe. Then phishing attack, and like I remember a few years ago, we done with you at Microsoft TechEd, now called Ignite, a phishing attack, and I never ever forget. One of the feedback was, "Hey, we are in year 2013, and you're showing phishing attack."
You're still doing that?
And yes, it was one of the feedback. Just 6 months later, I believe that gentleman was working for the
Well,
bank.
that's actually the most effective attack vector we know about today, simply because the legit users sitting behind the keyboards and having access to the information, if I can trick any of these to click on my executable and download that and run it on their PC, then I will have the same amount of access to that information as they do have. So it's still the most effective one, and we remember quite big attacks that happened a few years ago.
Just recently, $1 billion, which is equal to 1 ton of weight, money was physically stolen with a simple phishing attack. We don't have to go really much back. It was February this year. After that, DOS attacks, data theft has started to be popular, but things are changing. As cybercrime is not a hobby anymore, the evolution of the attacks started to evolve as well. 2003, we used to have script kiddies. Everybody who had access to Metasploit, Kali, or similar software, they thought they were hackers. But the volume was high, the impact was low. But in 2005, hackers started to be even much smarter. They started to organize the crime. They started to attack, target the attacks. And after 2012, as I was just trying to say, nation state, activists, terror groups has started to be really effective, and the impact started to be high as well.
We had a very interesting incident that happened this summer, that a security firm was attacked. A security company was attacked. We're not mentioning any names, right? But there was a quite interesting attack where they actually, I guess, under a couple of months or even more than so, had full control over that company's all assets, all their software, source code was published on the net, all their
customers,
customer information, invoices, everything, all their social media accounts were compromised, and they started to act as that company up to 100%. Very interesting scenario. I doubt they like it, but that company. But it's very interesting that they are going this far this time.
I think it was a really good point. So hackers are getting smarter, which means we have to get smarter as well. And thanks to Microsoft Virtual Academy, who brought us here together to be able to demonstrate what this guy's doing. So what are the cybersecurity concerns present? If you look at the global attacks, the cost is increasing and rising every single second. Cybercrime extract between 15 and 20% of the value created by the internet. We can look in each and every country one by one. The result is not going to change. The cost, the effect is really getting high. And the impact, I think they say, could be as much as 3 trillion in loss on productivity and growth. To be honest, I can't even imagine how much money 3 trillion is.
Yeah.
Or it's not always money. It happened in Middle East. One of the world's largest oil companies was hacked.
Yeah.
And they were slowed down, by 60-70% on productivity. So it's not always money. So the cost as now is keep changing. And I believe this will bring us to the point why we need to understand forensics.
Yeah.
Okay, security is good, hacking is good. Now we are hacked. Okay. What's going to happen after you're hacked? I mean, we call, hey, TrueSec, Hasain, can you please come and help me? So you have to do some, how we call it, forensics?
Yeah, or an investigation, actually. It's a more or less a digital investigation, what we call it forensics. So forensics is all about putting the pieces together. It's all about, you have artifacts, you have pieces of information that might or might not be interested. And then you try to put them together. You try to build the timeline, what happened, at what point in time, and so forth, what systems were affected, and so on. So that's what it's all about. It's just gathering the pieces and try to lay them out so you got an understandable timeline, so you see what exactly, or more or less exactly, what happened. Sometimes it's pretty easy, sometimes it's pretty difficult. Sometimes you need to do a lot more than other occasions. You need to copy disks or just gather data of the network, or maybe quite gigantic amounts of data sometimes. Quite often we don't have enough logs, enough audit trails. Whenever something happens, we lack the ability to trace it because the company or the organization didn't thought about that before. So if they already been introduced to hacker activities before, you will most probably find that they do have some kind of audit trails and logging. If they never been in that position before, you will most often see that they don't have that kind of ability to present traces of what happened. And then sometimes they might already acted way too much on those machines. A machine that was hacked, it has been replaced or reinstalled or reformatted or something like that. And then we all of a sudden losing a whole lot of valuable information that might be caught if we would do a correct investigation, digital investigation, or forensic investigation on that one.
Okay, this brings us to the question, why do we need to learn about computer forensics, or these days called digital forensics? What is a digital forensics? It's something known as science. When a breach happens, what will happen is we have to know how we can, what is going on and this, what happened, what's going on, and how can we recover this. It's a science of collecting, analyzing, and reporting on digital data in a way that can be presented in a court as evidence as well, right? Okay, I believe Hasain hacked me. Proof it. I have to be able to analyze the computer, collect information, and write a report which I can submit it to the court. So why it's called digital forensics? Because it's not a computer anymore. Yes, early 70s, early 80s was computers, but today we have the mobile phones, we have the TV, smart TVs, we have tablets, Surface Pro, or we have all these digital aspects,
the digital footprint
that we need to look into it. So it is like any other science. It has a forensic medicine, a ballistics, a psychology, a chemistry, engineering, criminology, and some other stuff that we cannot cover right now. Okay, why do we need forensics? Because it's a method of techniques which will help us to investigate. And Dr. Wolf, which is very similar to your name, that's why I took it up, said here a beautiful saying: a methodological series of techniques and procedures for gathering evidence from computing equipment and various storage devices and digital media that can be presented in a court of law in a coherent and meaningful format. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add some small things to that.
So he's Dr. Wolf and you are the Wolf.
Yeah,
so
I mean, everything we read, which is publicly available about digital forensic, it often goes into speaking about the legislation part of it. I want to use this in court. I want to prove that this happened in front of other people or something like that. But what we see in real life that there are many forensics activities or investigations being carried out, and that information will never be shared with the law enforcement. It's only internal investigation that an organization or enterprise is performing, simply because they want to understand what kind of breach they had, how much information was leaked, what kind of effect that will put on their customers, on their services, and so on.
The research groups, right?
Yeah, and not necessarily to share that with law enforcement. Now, we do have some changes in that landscape as well. We do have, based on the recent changes in the legislation, there are reasons why to publish that information and why to share it with law enforcement. And sometimes there is more or less an obligation to do that as well. So that's changing, especially here in the States. In Europe, we're still working with that. We're still dealing with that type of changes in the European Union. And I guess in the other parts of the world, we will be doing that as well. So just to give some...
That's a good point. Thank you.
Clearance on that.
And a good example, me as academic in Charles Sturt University, I set honeypots to be able to see what how hackers comes, and it's my job to analyze collected data, not giving it to the court, of course, in this case, making sure, learning how they do, and we as cybersecurity advisors then, letting our customers know how they can be protected.
Yeah, and I mean, you can get help by Microsoft if you're using their cloud services today. You can get all these advanced analytic reports and so on. So they will be analyzing your data in terms of your users connecting to services.
If you allow them, yes.
Consuming services, how doing that. Do we see any anomalies? Are users coming and going from places or on the internet they aren't supposed to be there at the same time they are at their laptops at home or something like that? So we're getting that kind of information as well from the big vendors today.
What I can recommend at Channel 9, if you go to speakers, look under my name, Erdal Ozkaya, you should be able to see a session called Windows Azure Security, and there, actually, I'm demonstrating how you can, what Hasain said, it's a beautiful session and demonstration. Please go ahead and watch it later. Hasain has also really good sessions there, which I always recommend. But now back to digital forensics. It's like an iceberg, right? The top is the casual observer, which is the Windows Explorer, command line or PowerShell, the browser. But when we investigate deeply, we will see that it's more sophisticated. It may include deleted data or hidden data or unauthorized information and records of illegal activities. And it happens a lot, where we get invited by police to investigate a computer because someone is doing some sort of illegal activity, which they think deleting the computer or sometimes encrypting the computer is going to keep them away. We have some techniques that we're going to cover, how we can recover this information. So digital forensic is computer forensics, memory forensics, network forensics, mobile forensics, all combined. And today, we are not going to go much into the mobile forensics, but we will cover deeply Windows, memory, and network forensics, and hopefully you're going to understand the reasons why do we need to do the forensic analysis. Hasain, can you please tell us why do we need really a forensic analysis? What are the reasons?
Well, as I said before, it's simply about you got those pieces of information, you need to put them together, you need to recreate what happened. So that's what your major task will be. That's why you need to conduct that type of analysis. We used to call them artifacts. These are pieces of information, not necessarily related to each other if you look at them at the first sight. And then when you start looking at them a little bit deeper to understand how the relationship looks like, then you will be able to build relations between these components. So that's the type of typical activity we'll be doing when looking at those pieces of information.
So later we're going to show it in demos, but we have to be able to identify what's going on in this computer. Then, if possible, you have to preserve it. To be able to preserve it, we have to extract it. To be able to extract it, we have to play with it And after that, we have to be able to document it.
Yeah.
We have to be able to explain it, interpret it in a way, in a presentable format, where either in a court or in a security advice or in a white paper, this can be explained.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we understand how security is involved, actually working very closely with forensics. And if you look at the title, Security and Forensics, of course, as Microsoft MVPs, today we're covering Windows, but this involves in Linux, this involves in Apple, and Google, and Amazon Cloud, and everything. But our focus will be as MVPs for today, and being a Microsoft Studio, only on Windows and area. So I always tell my students, my customers, that forensics is not just in security, it's proactive. But it can be reactive based on the request, and you gave really good examples on this. It's sometimes it's more about finding information about bad guys or criminals, and it could be in evidence, or as we're gonna do later demo, could be malware, which is an ATP, which reports somehow information to in a different way. And I know you and your workmates, let's say hello to Marcus from here, you do many penetration testings, which I do as well. Then we make sure that our customers are ready to be more secure, not ready, but they are, they are able to push back the attacks.
React or get the feel and look for how that kind of an attack could be.
That's why they need us, right?
Yeah, it's perfect that you.
Area.
Yeah, it's perfect that you're bringing up penetration tests, because that could be a simulation, or it could be used as a simulation. You let some a group conduct an attack on your organization, and you know about that, and you want to test your readiness. You want to test your whatever type of enforcement you've put in place in terms of traceability or any proactive type of measures you have in place. You see, am I getting those alarms? Do we have people that are able to react? Do we have people that can collect those artifacts, those traces, and put them together and then present the whole picture for us? So we'll have maybe two teams, a red and a blue team. The red will be trying to attack and penetrate the system. The blue team will try to look at what's happening in the background and try to fix it meanwhile, or just observe it to be able to build the picture about what's happening.
The difference between us, ethical hackers, and hackers is, we as penetration testers, security advisors, yes, we usually get paid to hack, but we are not there to damage. We will simulate how a hacker can in, how they can steal information, and it's our job, via the blue teams, to protect before the hackers damage. So at the end, yes, we do. I mean, I know you do also for charities as well. I do lots of charity work as well. I don't charge most of the time some of the non-profit-making companies, but at the end, the aim is same, making money, but our one is the legal way. And the fun part of it is, I remember years ago, when I was an instructor, I used to deliver certified ethical hacking class, and my son, in the kindergarten, true story, he was telling, my dad is a hacker.
Yeah.
And he was telling his friends, the teacher was surprised. She called, said, Mr. Ozkaya, yes? Is it true that you're a hacker? I said, not really, I'm a penetration tester. And she said, a what? A hacker. I was trying, I'm going to explain penetration testing.
It's easier that way.
Yes, I said, we hack for a cause. A cause, yes, to make you more secure. Yeah. That's what we do in reality. And it's a true story which I always laugh and remember.
Well, what we see happening in real life as well, most of the hackers will try to keep the systems they get control over alive, simply because that will be a way to gain more money or gain more influence. You don't want to build a bot network where the bots are not working. So you want to simply keep them alive, and sometimes those who operate and own those bot networks will make sure that the computers will get updated, the computers will actually get protected against being hacked by other groups. So they will keep the persistent
Protect their
access
own
to them.
IPs.
Yeah, protect their own assets, because that's the new asset they own.
Their
and control.
own assets, you
Yeah,
mean, right?
yeah.
Assets, you hack my system, it's now your assets.
Yeah, it's virtually somebody else. Yeah.
For this, we, again, if you watch the previous MBAs that I recorded, we covered there. I said, hey, there's 5 phases, and the fourth phase, which is maintaining access part, is really important, because otherwise someone else is going to steal it from you. And there's a beautiful saying as well, which I remember now. If you're not the master, you are controlled by the master, right? So you better use your own IP to be able to keep the hacking business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we are here to tell the good stories, not bad stories. Okay. Probably this is the next point. What do we need to be a forensics analyst? First of all, we need some tools, right? Hardware and software tools to acquire data during our investigation. We need to understand the laws, because you can't just say, hey, I feel like browsing your computer, and no, we need some permissions.
That's right.
And more importantly, we have to know the laws, how we can do forensics.
Yeah. And how much to be able to tamper with whatever you have in your hands. Basically, you don't want to do that. You just want to keep it as original state as possible. So making copies of whatever on your hard drives or in memory, if possible. So don't even switch off the computer if you can do that. So with the right tools, you can have memory images created in real time without switching off the computers. Of course, that kind of activity have a cost related to it, but it is possible if you value the information that's been attacked in a certain way. So we need to make sure that we have a proper copy of the system, and we never actually try to avoid using the system itself. We try to look at the copies rather than looking at the system. And whenever we need to look at the system itself, we need to make sure the copies are authentic. So
this we're going to cover in details anyway. But for that, I like Hasain's office in Sweden. It's literally a big safe door. It used to be an ex-bank, and he delivers some training there as well. You have to really, it is a huge lock. That's the door is a huge lock. But I want you to quickly have a look in the pictures, please. This is a photo which I took from our lab. You will see this duplicator here. And from a different angle. We have disk duplicators, different brands. This is to duplicate the disk. Why? Because you are not allowed to work in the original disk, right? Then we need some write blockers to protect the original data. I mean, there are so many different brands. You can have a look into those. Then we have disk erasers. Okay, now you work for government. What are you going to do? For example, it's your job to destroy the data so nobody else can recover it.
Yeah.
For this, we have to understand what chain of custody is. Chain of custody is a roadmap that tells how evidence is collected, analyzed, and preserved.
Yeah.
It ensures auditing of the original data evidence and tracking the logs is accurate. In this case, it's a set of rules for us how we can collect, analyze, store the data, and present it in a court.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's not a court, then we should know how to write a white paper, right?
Yeah, or just a report to
a boss, or do a presentation like us right now for hopefully hundreds and thousands of people. Maybe it was a good estimation. Make sure that you share this course with your friends. It's free, and the good thing is, you know, once they complete it, they will get also a certificate from Microsoft Virtual Academy. All right, here's an example of the form. If you quickly look on the screen, it needs to have the date, the type of incident. You should type on a case number. If it's a hard drive, for example, the model, the manufacturer name, the serial number, descriptions. So it has many rules that we are not able to cover. I mean, usually forensic classes 5 days. I know you give some forensic classes as well, 3 days, 5 days, depends on the knowledge. But how is your life? I mean, I'm going to tell mine. But you're my guest today here. This is like my home studio now. The crew, you're there, you know. I'm here every 2 months to make sure they're secure enough. So how is your day as a forensic analyst? I know you're a security analyst, but I know you do also forensics. But how is your day? Your 8 hours, assuming workday as a forensic analyst.
Yeah, I mean the hardest part is try to understand what happened. There are different versions of what happened. There you have the customer or the enterprise itself, and then you have the users themselves, and so on. And you have the people behind the scenes, those who sysadmins or network admins or storage admins or whatever part of the system that was involved in an attack or something like that. So trying to put together those pieces of information. What's your story? What did actually happen? What are you convinced about? This thing happened. I know that this has changed or this has been altered or something like that. And the other very difficult part is to understand how the system is built. What is the usage scenario for the system? What is legal? What is illegal? What is okay to do or what is not? And then we will start looking for dependency descriptions, relationships between systems and so forth, because we really need to understand what's going on in normal situations to understand whether this is a normal situation or not, or has been carried out by an internal legit user, or is this an external attack altogether or something like that. So we need to get that picture, and it's not that very easy all the time to get it. You might get some pieces of information, and then you need to put them in that context, and that's typically where we spend most time on. Try to put them together in that context to be able to build up the scenario we're looking for.
So that's a good way to explain it. Thank you, Hasain. So the guidelines, we talked about it, but what I believe is everything is about the data, right?
Yeah.
It's the computers, the laptops, the mobile phones, they're all just a medium for us to produce the data. And I think this also one of the world's biggest now companies, Microsoft, it's not a software company anymore, make the point clear. For us, it's cloud first, mobile first. Yeah. Why do you need mobile devices? To create the data. Where? To save it in the cloud. So this brings me to the next question, actually, which I'm going to answer myself. What is a data archetype? We create the data, or American style, data. We have 3 types of data. Data in rest is where we use computer forensics, right? We have it inside the flash drive. That's the data which is resting. It could be in a NAS, could be in the cloud. Yes, I know. Many questions you keep asking this question, which we're gonna cover later. Yeah. Oh, is the cloud gonna kill my job? Now, they used to ask me this in IT pro classes, developing classes. Now they started to ask this in forensics classes, and my answer is always the same: no. The only difference is you are not doing analysis on a computer anymore, but you can obtain rights from Microsoft to do your own forensic analysis into a cloud, which is stored in their data. Then we have data and execution, which we're going to cover in the next module, which is memory forensics. Why memory? Because it's like our memory. Everything is kept in the memory, right? And you're going to show us a nice demo how we can obtain keys, passwords, and many other stuff on memory. Then we have also data in transit. What is this? This is where we use network forensics. So, beautiful. You have the cloud, and the data in between.
The connection in between, yeah.
So, sometimes we have to do online, sometimes we have to do offline. This, again, we're going to cover in the upcoming modules. But saying that, here's a good example. We have our Excel file, maybe stored in a USB. As soon as you plug it into a computer, it will leave traces in the registry, right? We know Windows, even Windows 10, uses the registry as the backbone to store data.
That's right.
If it's in a network environment, what will happen is, let's say now you have it in your hard drive, you are uploading it to your Azure server and to your data center. At the end, nothing is changing really. The only change is you have your NIC, which transits the data, and instead of having registry shortcuts, you're going to have transaction logs in your database. And at the end, it's going to be stored in the memory regardless during that period. All right, before I go to the summary, Hasain, now we had 3 types of topics today. First, the security landscape. Then we covered together the importance of Windows security. Then we covered the importance of forensics. Can you please show me, I mean, it used to be all CMD, now PowerShell. Can you please show us how people, bad people, criminals, can abuse PowerShell and use the power of the PowerShell to harm people? So again, we are not trying to show you how you can hack people. We are trying to show you how hackers can hack you. And please, check this demo out, because Hasain is one of the best in his field, which I always respect. And if you watch any of my talks, I always mention about him. And special thanks he came here. Can you please show us a quick demo on PowerShell?
Just as Erdal said, PowerShell is used very often today to manage systems, and especially remote management. And we don't see that out if an admin guy receives something and they need to run a PowerShell script, or so they are getting more used to PowerShell scripts. So they are not really that careful about what's happening if I do execute some PowerShell script here and there. And the other nice thing with PowerShell is that you can do some really nifty things, like executing stuff directly in memory, which will never touch in your hard drive. You will hardly see any evidence of those things getting executed.
It just reminded our Ignite session. Based on scenario, Hasain and his good friend partner hacked me during the session. It was scenario, okay? No problem. Then we had close to a few thousand people there, right? And one of the people, you can go and watch it in Channel 9, said, hey, it's a scenario, hack me if you can live. We invited her to the stage, and we hacked her live in the stage. So can be happen anywhere, anytime, but how?
Let us just go through this. So if you focus my computer, I'm using a tool or a toolkit called Metasploit.
Which is free.
It's free. It's an exploitation framework. It's a penetration testing framework. So you can extend that. You can use whatever on board. There are so-called payloads and exploits. You can push different kind of executables to different kind of machines, operating systems. This is not only restricted to Windows. This is all over the scale. All kind of operating systems, Unix-based, BSD-based, and so forth. So we're going to go through a scenario where we'll prepare for a PowerShell attack, and then we will be using that PowerShell attack in our system. So let me just pick up my demo script. I'm using Metasploit, as I said before. I'm going to set up a handler, which is actually a command and control server. So with these instructions, when I put them in Metasploit, I will create a command and control center on my system. So copy these guys, and then just make sure I will paste them in. And then once that is done, I need to tell it, hey, could you please execute and run that command and control center for me?
Do you mind if I highlight that using HTTPS?
That's totally perfect. So now I'm running that control server in the background on this system.
And a secure server?
Well, this could be a machine in Azure. This could be a machine on any cloud. It's basically listening on TLS. The port it's listening on is 443. The handler itself is a reverse HTTPS, which means whenever somebody is getting attacked, they will connect back to me, to the attacker. That's the reverse HTTPS. There will be an outgoing connection from the local computer on that network to my system I'm setting up right now using TLS. So for any firewall, this looks like just a regular TLS connection, outgoing one, to a system. It might be on a public cloud or something, hosted anywhere. And once I'm done with that one, that's the server side part, I will go focus on my client. So the client will be attacked or hacked using a simple PowerShell script or just PowerShell shell. These are the instructions, and we use the versions that are not encoded right now, just to show you guys the effect of that. So I will be doing this with the non-encoded version. Normally you will see this as an encoded, base64 encoded string, so you will probably not understand it by just looking at it. You need to decode it back to its real text.
But for the purpose of this demo, we show it plain so you can understand it.
That's perfect. So first of all, I'm going to be downloading a small PowerShell script and executing that directly in memory. So I will be doing that with this other guy over here. Here we go. That's the victim computer. So let me just download and execute the first part.
So the victim goes to a website, or he downloads, or she downloads anything.
As you see here, this is getting downloaded. It's a text file that includes some PowerShell instruction, PowerShell scripts. It's being downloaded from that address, and that could be a perfectly registered DNS name and so. And then executing that in line with PowerShell. Let's see, just go back to my, where is it? There we go. And then the next step will be invoking the shell code, which will be the reverse HTTPS, and we'll targeting the control center and doing that over port 443. Just to have a look at the control center, this is how it looks like right now. Sessions. We don't have any sessions established, no active sessions yet. So if we go,
because you didn't download the client?
Yeah, nothing has been actively using that. And just remember, this is a live demo we're doing here. Did you
sacrifice chicken this morning?
Let's see, I want to get back to that and copy that line. And go back to victim machine, and then just paste that and run it. So whilst this is running, we can go back now to our attacker, and we
run the session again?
Should see sessions going on here. We don't have it. Okay, we just, as I said, this is a live demo, and things could happen in a live demo. I just repeat this on my local machine, so not jumping forth and back between this and my other machines. That looks a little bit better, I guess, yes.
And here we go.
So it didn't work on the virtual machine I used, but when I did it on my local machine, it worked better. So as you can see here, it received the connection from the victim, the client I was attacking. Current server process is PowerShell exe, and now it's moving that to explorer.exe, simply because if the victim closes the PowerShell process, we will still have a persistent connection to that machine. So this is our sessions going on. And right away, I see this is the computer name is PC. The logged in username is Hasain Alshakarti. Obviously, this is my own workstation. And then we do have information about connected IP addresses and so forth.
So when you say your own, is it your own, or is it?
Well, virtually, yes. So I do jump into that session, and within the meterpreter, I can do just a shell command over there, and I will just get a regular command prompt. So who am I? And this is just a regular Windows machine. I'm there, ipconfig. So everything I'm doing right now in this context is
from the victim.
From that victim machine.
You can create some
I have access
files.
to the whole network. I have access to the file shares. I have access to everything that users just have access to. So let's just go back to my machine again and see if I closes down the PowerShell, if I closes down everything else, it will still maintain that access. I'm still there. I can just list files and work with folders and files and processes and that system uninterrupted. So I do have a permanent access to that machine now using this kind of technique.
So you can plant a rootkit or a Trojan or virus, and you can maintain the access, right?
Yeah. And then we can control that forever and ever again. So that's the way the attackers are using PowerShell today to remotely control the systems. That's what we see in the wild out there on the internet. And this is totally unobserved. Right now, it's totally unobserved by antivirus because antivirus are not looking that deep within the PowerShell process or anything, any kind of automation or script engines running in our systems today. We know that Microsoft is working on this. It's been announced for a good while ago that the new antivirus engine, together with the new PowerShell engine, will have connection points that we will start looking at this.
It reminds me VB scripts. If you remember, you used to be able to create a VB script and you just double click and it was causing problems, which was fixed with PowerShell.
Yeah.
But now, you guys, or us, we find always a different way. And that's what I keep telling my customers. Hackers are always a step ahead. Because me as Chief Information Security Officer at EMT Holding, I have thousands of applications, hundreds of users that have to take care. And it's me and my security team.
Yeah.
But you, as Hasain, at TrueSec, you have hundreds of clients with 10,000 of users, with 100,000 of applications, where hackers uses one application, unlimited time, unlimited budget.
Yeah.
Once they succeed, they make unlimited money.
Yeah.
Let's come to the summary. Windows, it's getting great, especially Windows 10. Server 2016, it's getting great.
Yeah.
Azure, Cloud, Lumia fonts, beautiful. Hard drives, forensic was a bit easier. Why? We used to have a hard drive, clusters, everything used to be written in the cluster. And if you delete something, it was still resisting in the data. But what used to happen is it was just unmarked, ready to or written. Today, we go to flash. It's a bit different. Flash drives, not flash software. Things are written in pages, but still similar. So forensic is still important. Forensic is still helping us to gain the information. A, to be able to present it in a court. B, to learn from it. C, that's how we do in our demos, right? I know they're good on finding 0 days, and they found a couple of 0 days. He's not, he's a shy person in a big bank in Europe, where how you can find it? This is how you have to do forensics to be able to look into this. And we demonstrated you what PowerShell, what hackers can do with PowerShell,
how it can be abused.
And with this, we're coming to the end of this topic. But don't go away anywhere. Feel free to have a break. The next session will be about Windows authentication. First we're going to do memory attacks. It's a good course. You're going to enjoy it. We're looking forward to see you again.